Hello and welcome. This is Dennis Westman, your instructor, and today I want to talk a little bit about Excel Tutorial 2. Now, as we've done in the past, if you would get your textbook out and follow along with me, and you're welcome to pause, rewind, fast forward me if you like in order to better understand this. Now, the way we're going to do this is I'm just going to highlight some certain sections of the chapter, and then, as I said, you can follow along, make notes in your margins if you like, and then we'll just go from there. So Excel Tutorial 2 is all about formatting a workbook, and it begins on page 57. And if you look at the page 57, over on the left-hand side, it talks about what each section of the chapter talks about. And essentially, again, we're looking at formatting a workbook, which means adding different types of formats with regards to bold, italics, underline, number formatting, conditional formatting, and a whole slew of other types of formatting. Now, something else that I want to point out is if you look at the bottom of the page, you'll see the starting data files that are needed for this particular chapter. And if you're just curious, at the very last page of this chapter, which, if you'll permit me to look, it's on page 114 at the bottom. It shows you what the ending data files will be. Now, of course, we're not going to do all of the activities. I've already laid out in the Blackboard site under week 3 what exact assignments you're doing. But this is a really nice way to know whether you're on the right track or not with regards to the data files and the completed files. So at the front of the chapter, you have the listing of the data files that are needed at the beginning, and then at the end of the chapter, and in this case it's on page 114, you have the information about what the ending files will be, what the completed files will be. So let's look at page 58 and 59. This is a graphical view of the Excel window, and it shows you all the different parts that really this chapter and this particular section is going to talk about. And you can see the different types of formatting that are applied, changing the column widths, changing the different heights and sizes, adding different types of style to the numbers and the values, and so on. Continuing on, let's look at page 60, formatting cell text. And this is where essentially is formatting is the process of changing a workbook's appearance by defining the font, styles, colors, and decorative features. And so whenever we talk about formatting a workbook or formatting a row, a column, or even a cell, this is what we're doing. We're applying a certain set of fonts, styles, colors, and other kinds of decorative items. And if you look on page 61, it talks about applying the different fonts and font styles. And 62 is talking about applying the color. And then 63 is talking about formatting certain types of text. So let's say you want to select just a certain part of text within a particular cell. You can actually do that by editing the cell and only highlighting either a certain part of that particular cell. It's very, very handy. You can also change the fill color, which is on page 64. You can change the fill color, which is essentially the background and color of that particular cell. You can also add a background image. Probably a lot of people didn't realize, but in Excel, you have a lot of very similar functions that you have or that can be found in Microsoft Word. And so it's pretty handy to be able to add these kinds of things in Excel like you can in Microsoft Word. You can also, of course, format calculated values, and essentially what you're doing is applying maybe decimal places or adding a currency symbol or those kinds of things. And that's discussed on page 66 and 67. 68 talks a little bit about the number formatting, and that's just displaying again the various types of decimal places, currency symbols, and so on. Continuing on, page 71 talks more about setting up the different types of number formats. Bottom of 71 talks a little bit about applying dates and times formatting, and it's very important to understand these because if you don't format dates and times as dates and times, you can get some really, really strange looks within your Excel spreadsheet. It looks really weird. So you want to make sure that you understand how to format the dates and times into the proper date time format, because if you don't, again, you're going to get some really strange looking items. The bottom of page 72 and 73 talks about alignment, and you have a lot of the same alignment features as you do in other Microsoft programs like Word. You can align items to the left, right, or center, but you can also align individual cell contents at the top of the cell, the middle of the cell, or the bottom of the cell. And those are talked about on page 72 and 73. You can also indent, much like you can in a Word document. You can merge cells. That's pretty handy. Say, for instance, you want to type a title across an Excel spreadsheet, and you don't necessarily want to use the space bar to space it over. So what you'll end up doing is you'll use something like merge cells and center the title across. You select the cell range from like A1 through F1, you merge those cells together, and then you center that title across the entire spreadsheet. Very, very handy. Do not use the space bar and try to get the title to be spaced correctly. You want to use the function like merge and center. And that's, again, talked about on page 74 and 75. Moving along, page 76, you can add borders around cells. That's just, highlighting what looks like the grids. But you notice whenever you print an Excel spreadsheet, or when you view the print preview, it doesn't by default print all the little boxes that you see. So the border actually then forces some sort of line to be printed around cell contents. Look on page 79. You can also copy and paste formats. So this is kind of a neat little trick, because you can copy and paste text, numbers, those kinds of things, but you can also copy and paste the formatting, which is very nice and very handy should you want to preserve the same type of formatting across multiple places in a spreadsheet. So that's really, really handy. And that's talked about again on page 79, 80, and 81. Now moving along, we're going to look at section 2.2, and this is talking about the different types of styles. Now a style, looking on page 84, is just a predetermined set of formatting options. It could be a certain type of color, a font size, a font type. It could be bold, italics, underline. It could be any number of those items. And so those are really handy whenever you want to select certain text to look a certain way, but you don't want to have to change all that manually. And that is talked about on page 84. And you'll see whenever you're working through this particular set of activities, you'll have some styles like heading 1, heading 2. You'll have stuff like normal, bad, good, neutral type of styles. You'll have some different types of accents that have different types of colors. And those just really help you to format a worksheet a lot quicker than having to pick all those little options manually one at a time. So that's what a selection of styles includes. Now themes goes a step further and incorporates all of those into a common look and feel, so that everything related to that particular worksheet or workbook looks and feels the same, looks consistent. So it takes the styles a step further by creating an entire theme, all these different elements together that work well together. Your charts, your graphs, your tables, your cell styles, your colors, borders, backgrounds, all of those things have a consistent look and feel. And it goes a great distance in making your Excel spreadsheets look like they've been done professionally. It looks like you've really been sometimes sent on them, and they're really nice, high quality. So I would definitely explore the themes on page 86 and 87 and being able to practice changing those. And just as kind of a quick tip, there's a whole bunch more out on Microsoft's website. And if you're curious and you're working on some stuff on your own and you want to do some neat looking themes, I would encourage you to go to Microsoft.com and just search in the box on Microsoft.com Excel themes, and you'll find a whole bunch of different neat ones. On page 88, it starts talking about formulas to add and subtract values, and it's very important that you pay careful attention to creating the formulas. Most formulas are always going to start out with with an equal sign, and so what happens is with the equal sign, that tells Excel that that's going to be your particular, that's the trigger that lets it know that it's going to be a formula. Working with table styles, that's on page 91. That's again just a collection of font types, colors, borders, those kinds of things that make a table look really, really nice in Excel. That's again talked about on page 91, 92, 93, 94, and even 95. Now, let's take a moment to look at page 95 at the bottom. This is a section that begins with something called conditional formatting. And what conditional formatting is it applies a certain type of formatting if a certain condition is met. So let's say, for instance, you want all of the values in a particular range to be colored red if they fall below 50, or green if they fall above 50. And so you apply the conditional formatting for that entire column, and you put in the criteria. You'll say if the value is 50 or higher, color it green. If it's 49 or lower, color it red. And depending on what the value is, it automatically changes. This is a fantastic tool. It was introduced, I think, in version 2007 of Excel, and it is fantastic. I use it all the time, and it's a great way to automatically adjust the formatting based on a certain condition. And in your textbook, they take it a lot further in highlighting. Look at page 97 at the top of the textbook. They're highlighting all of the positive values in the green color, so that, let's say, for instance, you print this in color, someone could quickly go down and scan and say, oh yeah, that's right. In R01 in June, we were at 0, which would be not a positive value, or we were at -6, and I think that's in D41. That is not a positive value, so it's not colored. But all the other ones that are 1 or higher are colored in green, so that someone could quickly go through and look at the document and go, oh yeah, that's right, those are positive amounts, or they've met those certain conditions, and now that formatting has been applied. It's a fantastic tool. Definitely want to spend some time on it. You're going to see it again on assignment. You're going to see it again on test in a few weeks, and so you want to definitely pay attention to and understand how to use conditional formatting. Now let's say you make a mistake. How do you get rid of it? If you look on page 97 in the middle, to clear a conditional format, steps 1, step 2, it talks about how to actually clear the conditional format. So it's not permanent. If you make a mistake, you accidentally apply conditional formatting, you can get rid of it if you need to. Page 98, 99 continues to talk about conditional formatting, also on page 100. Conditional formatting, again, very, very important. Page 101 talks about hiding worksheet data, which is essentially hiding rows and columns. You select a row, you select a column, right-click, select hide. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but it's really nice if you want to only display certain items, maybe for printing purposes, to be able to hide rows and columns. And then another nice little feature is being able to print in page layout view. This is new, I believe, in the previous version of Excel. It allows you to actually see what the sheet is going to look like on a printed page, kind of like what you can in Word, to know what it's going to look like and whether you need to make any adjustments or not. Also talking about headers and footers, titles, very important to understand those, and then adjusting the page margins. Pay careful attention to titles and headers and footers, because you're going to see those a lot throughout the next several weeks with different activities. Being able to print titles that continually print at the top maybe of every page on subsequent pages, and then headers and footers, things like page numbers and the name of the file and those kinds of things that print at the top, which is a header, or at the bottom, which is a footer. And I believe that covers Excel Tutorial 2. Now, as usual, if you have any questions, please post them to the lab questions discussion area. That way I can answer them, or your fellow students can answer them, and then we can review each other's responses. It's a great way to get assistance from each other. Post them there. You can email me, but if it's a specific lab question, please post to the discussion area, to the lab questions area. That way I can respond and everyone can see the answer. Thank you, and have a great day.